Thanks, Richard. I will try and condense this given the time frame. So obviously our role in the NBCO is one to offer support, oversight and direction to the local authorities, and I'm just going to go through how we do that with our support inspections. So to date this year, we've been out with 24 of the 31 local authorities on support inspections, and we'll get to the rest of you before the end of the year. So I'm going to give a quick overview of the findings. Obviously, the guidance being in the Code of Practice and the Framework for Building Control. The building control authorities carry out desktop technical assessments and also on-site technical assessments. The purpose of the desktop technical assessment is to determine compliance with the second schedule of the building regulations. The focus here today has been on Part B, but Parts A to M effectively have to be demonstrated. So prior to inspections, we also carry out our own desktop inspections. And again, I've mentioned it on previous days, but typically the biggest, I suppose, letdown is that the schedule does not include details of plans, particulars and specifications that are to be prepared. So obviously at commencement stage, there are things, calculations like foundation details that you'd expect, but there will also be design elements to be designed, and these should be included in the schedule, which will, at the end of the job, be populated in the annex of documents. So again, in the preliminary inspection plan, the assigned certifier will identify all of the design elements on which they will rely on assigned ancillary certs. So those persons identified and the elements of design in the schedule at commencement stage. So the findings of the desktop assessment can inform the inspections and the decision to carry out an inspection. So site inspections are being carried out widely on multi-unit residential for obvious reasons, including multi-storey apartments, because non-compliances can potentially impact on a large number of people, so they pose a greater risk. The inspections are being carried out early, and this provides the ideal opportunity to identify compliance issues that may not be visible as works progress. So many of the inspections that I've been on have been follow-up inspections. You can see from the first photograph here, provides an ideal opportunity to inspect at multiple stages of the development. But inspections are also being carried out on one-off buildings, including schools and nursing homes, which I've been out to with the officers, certain changes of use, and also the commencement notices with opt-outs are also being targeted by a lot of the building control officers. So comprehensive inspections being carried out, which is great to see. In these targeted inspections, the information on the commencement notice, the disability access certs, the fire certs, all of the documentation, agrement certs, are at hand to the building control officers, whether they've had to request them or whether they were uploaded at commencement stage. And so they have the information, they are informed when they go out to site. It's important for everybody to keep up to date with any new requirements. Again, we're here today with the new requirements of Part B, but also just like to highlight the in-building physical infrastructure regulation requirements, on which there's also technical guidance published. So all of the inspections are recorded, and no matter how the inspections are recorded, we promote the use of the BCMS to communicate, to record these and to communicate the findings and follow up with all the parties involved in the works. So getting round to some of the findings, I'm going to start with Part D because a large number of observations start with Part D. But compliance will have an impact on other parts of the regulations. So like in the first photograph here, the damaged membrane and also lack of mortar in the joints, it highlights issues in one photograph with potentially parts A, C and D. So other issues that we're noticing, missing rebar in ICF has been noted on a couple of inspections that I've been on recently. Again, the information, the agrement certificates not being followed. It's possibly difficult to see that, but again, in this instance, there was no rebar evident before the concrete was poured. So just highlights the importance of the inspections. The design information can be there, the design could be compliant at commencement stage, but if nobody's getting out on site, nobody's checking these things, we don't know at the end of the day if our buildings are compliant. So inspections are incredibly useful tool and important that all of the building control officers are getting out on site. With regards to Part A, observations include inadequate installation of gable wall straps, wall ties not adequately provided at opes or at movement joints, or wall ties not the appropriate size for their location, movement joints stopping above lintels, inadequate provision of lintels, shrinkage or loose mortar, poorly set out coursing of blockwork. We'll keep going quickly. Part B, a couple of observations, missing fire stopping, or again, unclear effectiveness of fire stopping, and Conal alluded to things being changed as they go. Again, a couple of small things that can be picked up at detailed design stage, the opening sections of windows, which restrict the dimensions for rescue by virtue of the fact of their detailed design. Again, missing seals or fixings or signage on fire doors, and sometimes small things that you'll only get at the end of a job, noticing the directional wayfinding positioned incorrectly. With regards to Part C, the position of the DPC relative ground levels is commonly not in accordance with the technical guidance, and so compliance with the requirements of the regulations must be demonstrated in these instances. The passage of moisture and associated damage during construction is common in timber and metal frame buildings, especially if they have been left for a period of time. But it can also be noted, and has been noted in a couple of instances on sites with algae growth. You can see this particularly lovely example here on the right. So continuing on. So wall construction details and workmanship that we have observed on site raise questions over compliance challenges for Part E sound, but also Part A and Part B fire. As you can see, this central photo here of a structural column, again, great for Part A, but again raises questions over Part E. The guidance in the technical guidance document on party wall construction, which would demonstrate the prima facie compliance, again the word we're always using, is commonly not being followed in block-built houses. So in walls of double course blockwork, additional sound testing may be requested to demonstrate compliance, and again may comply. Hopefully it's too late if you get your results and they don't comply. So following the technical guidance is prima facie compliance. Calculations are important to demonstrate Part F compliance. While our ventilation systems must be commissioned and validated, and again the documentation will be available at completion stage for sign-off by the assigned certifier, things like purge ventilation can be difficult to bring into compliance if found lacking during an inspection. So it's easy to adequately provide for if the design calculations are done and demonstrated at commencement stage, whether they are done by the architect or by your window manufacturer. They need to be done. Finishes and workmanship can also impact on the effectiveness of air transfer. And again, this last photograph here is an example of retrofitting, which will be required of proprietary products in an attic space. Again, difficult to carry out at a later stage of construction. Moving on to Part F, looking at the first photograph here, the guidance in TGDH states rodding points should be provided to give access to any lengths of pipe which cannot be reached from any other part of the system. All pipes should be reasonably accessible for repair, similar to Connell's issue with the fire dampers. Other observations, questions raised, again, looking at the guidance on this last photograph here, says in TGD, where rain driven against a wall by the wind can run down onto the roof or into a gutter, 50% of the area of the wall shall be added to the effective area of the roof. So it's difficult to tell sometimes when you are out on site if things have been adequately provided, but if the calculations are available to demonstrate compliance, either listed in the schedule or provided at commencement stage, you've demonstrated compliance and you're not going to have to come along and do it afterwards. Part M, observations at advanced stages of construction here include thresholds exceeding 15 mil, even when the finishes have been installed, or WCs either not in accordance with the DACs, or obstructions have been put in into minimum sized rooms which impact on access. Part K, observations that we've had typically relate to dimensions being other than in accordance with the guidance, or guarding which has been designed incorporating climbable features. So again, back to Part D and workmanship, this can lead to questions over compliance with Part L. In these photographs, will the built-in joist be adequately sealed and pointed? Will the insulation in the next photograph perform with the air pocket noted between it and the inner leaf? Why have the ACDs not been followed on site when they are being relied upon in the Part L compliance report? So lots of questions, but the good news is that most times, most of the observations do not raise the need to ask any questions because they highlight best practice. These findings feed into the building control officer's risk matrix for targeting of future inspections to ensure again that they are targeting the most appropriate sites, buildings, works going forward. I'm just including the last photograph here actually as an example where a builder has erected a temporary structure on site to protect materials as they arrive. Not in technical guidance documents, but again, best practice, good to see on site. So the discussions and a lot of the questions can be addressed on site with the builders, with the assigned certifiers. And I've witnessed very positive engagement between all parties. I think most builders have been very happy to see us coming to site and have engaged very positively and provided a lot of the answers to the questions, to the observations that we've had. But where questions of compliance still exist, and as a support to the building control officers, we have Section 11 request templates which are available through BCMS, and these can be amended as required. The Section 11 request for information can be issued even after completion. Again, just, sorry, I've skipped, I think my last slide wasn't there. Sorry, my last slides are missing, but again, just we have said that following the technical guidance documentation demonstrates prima facie compliance, but it is noted in all of the technical guidance documents that the adoption of an approach other than that outlined is not precluded, provided that the relevant requirements of the regulations are complied with. It has been mentioned by a few people, and there is an information note published on alternative approaches, which advises where alternative approaches are being considered, the local building control authority should be consulted at the earliest possible opportunity to seek advice on the proposed development. This would be in relation to complex buildings, not anything that is covered by the technical guidance documents. We would still recommend that you follow the guidance, but as we know, they are limited and building typologies and designs are evolving. So this is providing for that and for the future. So that was it very quickly. You can all go and have some lunch now.
Thanks, Jennifer. And I suppose really the Section 11